are thinking that, hey, ShoWTimE has a damn good chance, and rightly so. He's looking damn good. And speaking of, spawnering in the top right of 2K Atmosphere, it is big ShoWTimE.
He was one map away from becoming the two-time world champion. He is the runner-up. It is Kaiser's Reynor.
Definitely not a bad record for a young man. Winning it 1 year and then almost back-to-back, missing out narrowly, but still back-to-back finalist. I mean, that's some consistency when it matters right there, and it matters now. Group stage, yeah, you could suffer a loss or two, and even super uncharacteristically, but now it really does matter, and he's the kind of player that wants to stay in that winner bracket. We've seen him drop out before, kind of unexpectedly, in the winner bracket, and then he has to play Clem way earlier on than he would have liked, and yes, sometimes things don't end up too well.
For sure. Like, I mean, this European region, Benny, it has gained so much power in recent history. Like, the last few years, it has been, you know, 1 year after the other, it feels like we have a lot of these players that have been around for so long solidifying themselves as real contenders. And now, today, we are talking about ShoWTimE putting up a fight and potentially taking out a Reynor that has been seen as one of the best 2 or 3, whenever we include Clem in that echelon of players in the region, right? So really, with ShoWTimE and Big Gabe kind of making the rise, this region is looking extremely strong.
Yeah, this region suffered a big blow with that bold fella retiring from StarCraft 2 like 6 years ago. But since then, it's just been on the up and up, which, very thankful, Cats. I thought I left. I don't know where I'm going with it. But anyhow, yeah, it's really cool to see that ShoWTimE doing as well as he is doing, just because very often you can have players where they get close to the top and they talk about how, yeah, it's hard getting to the top, but it's harder staying there. So the fact that he's kind of back at it again and has kind of claimed that spot as the best Protoss in Europe for so long, he's had multiple contenders kind of come up throughout the years, but here he is, and he's pretty much Protoss's massive hope when it comes to dealing with these massive Zerg titans here, along with the likes of MaxPax.
For sure. Those, I guess, his Protoss brethren that he's competing with. That probe took actually a couple of shots too many from the links, but there will not be a pursuit as the Adept is expected to come out. Important to note, in this game, there wasn't a hatch block. Reynor was already ready with the timing to take his third first, but then went back to the natural as he saw that ShoWTimE was not in time to block with a probe. So ShoWTimE just looking for slightly tighter openings, I guess. And you know, there's like, I personally think it's always worth it to block it. Like, I think that as a Zerg player, you end up wasting or losing on like something like 50 resources if you end up transferring something like 4 drones on average, you know, on the average lengthed map from main to third. But yeah, I guess you also get like the slightly better launch pad for the creep if ShoWTimE was to be concerned about something overly aggressive from Reynor, though that kind of opening has kind of lost a lot of potency with the Queen nerf. So yeah, kind of an interesting choice. Interesting and worth noting because pretty much, I want to say 90% of the time Protosses do block that expansion.
Well, Paulo, how do you feel about using this first Oracle defensively like ShoWTimE's doing here? Bit unusual, right?
Yeah. But it's okay to wait for 2 just because 2 will one-shot workers, and ShoWTimE has amazing control. And he also took a very early third off of a single Adept. So while it is strange to keep it back, I suppose, he also kind of like cut a couple of corners to make up for it. So he was consistent with his approach, and he's gonna get already a drone here and another one. And this is extra interesting because he goes straight into the third, Benny. And you know, the first Oracle wouldn't find a timing into the third, so maybe he feels like it's fine to have the full HP and full shields going into that base.
Yeah, it's almost like the Terran approach, where it's like, do I go in with just 1 Banshee or do I wait for 2 kind of thing? It's a lot zippier, a lot nippier, and can often throw off your opponent a little bit because the timing is so much different. Now we've got 3 Oracles. This is a bit more standard. Will be a Blink follow-up by him with +1 weapons. P.S. No reaction to Paulo?
No, why? Well, should I react to you botching my name or using my name instead of Cats?
I mean, like, I just wanted some reaction. It felt like all my efforts were in vain.
Yeah, I mean, I appreciate it, Benny. Yeah, Ravi sometimes calls me Paulo, but he also botches the name. I don't think that anyone really calls me by the correct name in terms of pronunciation, so I'm just kind of used to, you know, just throw whatever you want to throw at me, and it's fine. He might find a cancel onto this.
He certainly might. That is quite a lot of power there, and this is quite a nice start for ShoWTimE. And he's kept all of these bad boys alive, and wow, they kept just enough energy there to deal with that. That's a nice start. And by the way, I'm just thinking now, the fact that you felt like, oh, like at least he tried to do as best he could. That's even worse with the name thing.
Yeah, I mean, I've lived in the US for like 12 to 14 years or something, Benny. So yeah, I don't think anyone has ever pronounced my name in a satisfactory manner. And even in Peru, it's, you know, it's a Brazilian name, it's a Portuguese name, and I haven't been to Brazil or Portugal, so quite literally, it is very difficult to find anyone that pronounces my name as it should be pronounced.
All right. So the probe count's actually done ridiculously well this game. Like, ShoWTimE has dealt a little bit of eco damage. We look at the resources lost tab. So far, a perfect game by him. That's a healthy amount of stalkers. They do a plus, or in fact, okay, +1 is going to finish with the attack, as is most likely Reynor's +1, but I love how he's going to be utilizing these stasis traps behind him, giving him a way out and back against these lings if need be.
Exactly. Also, the oracles are kind of babysitting here. In previous matches, we've seen the oracles go away from the stalkers, but against the lings, they are amazing. I think we commentated together. I don't remember who was it, but there was a Protoss that was having that same approach with the blink stalkers, but they were trying to make something else happen with the oracles. Whereas here, the approach of ShoWTimE is beautiful because just having those guys hovering over the blink stalkers makes it so that if there is a lynx around, those things will melt to the oracles.
It might have been Hellraiser versus a laser there on Berlingrad or so, where it was just kind of like super commitment. Whereas behind this, ShoWTimE's actually advancing, and he's gone up to 4 bases here. He's getting charge and +2. I do like what Reynor's done though. Like, he's really making this a bit difficult. He's got lings on the map ready to do something. Oh, a nice little run by attempt, and it's going to be met by ShoWTimE also on the map ready to find out what's going on, which is cool. And it's going to get spicy.
Though. Oh yeah, but those Zealots don't really want to be meeting those Banelings. That means the Banelings are going to trade all of their lives for the Zealots' lives. So if you like gas, I guess it's not amazing for Reynor, but cost for cost, if we just equate minerals to gas, it is really good for those Banelings to detonate onto the clumped up Zealots. So now going into the third, at least they won't have the ability to kill many probes and just bruise the remaining Zealots. Big stasis trap on the other side as our observer tries to catch all of the action. Will trap a lot of the links that we're trying to extend far off of creep to get somewhat of a surround. And we'll see if ShoWTimE manages to punish, as at the same time he's gonna most certainly get a deny. Oh, barely missed there. Oh, not quite minigun.
Yeah, not quite minigun. That's exactly what I was thinking of. Not quite. But I do like the fact that Reynor has gone for double Evo with this, getting the armor upgrades. Oh, the Oracle managing to almost get away there. And ShoWTimE's actually out expanding the Zerg, which is super cool. We're seeing this from a lot of Protosses these days, where they really go super Zerg style, it feels like, against Zerg.
Yeah, this seems to be the flavor of the month. It is a very basic army composition. And I shout out to Nina, because again, like, she has been doing this for years, but you know, like it with her, it felt like a lot of like just wanting to style, and it is a very fast-paced type of approach to the matchup. But yeah, it's definitely picking up a lot in popularity, and it's definitely and there's definitely reason for it. It looks amazing.
Is there? I'm just looking at the tech though, because Reynor right now is holding on, like he's absolutely holding his own. That double Evo is already going to be kicking in here. And then he's got adrenal glands on the way as well, along with most likely an Ultralisk Cavern, I'd imagine, against this kind of style. Like, what does ShoWTimE do from here with what he has? Because I feel it's going to be so tricky.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen a few approaches. There's going to be a lot of Archons being morphed here, and I quite like that. Those are going to be generally good against everything that Reynor has for the time being. They are incredible against the Zerglings. They can soak up more Banelings than any other unit for cost, and they are not bad against Roaches. So Archons are a great choice for sure. Against Ravagers, they're not fantastic, and in my opinion, big Baneling connections here. 15 probes will go down. In my opinion, Hydras would be the right answer to them, but Hydras are kind of seen as a crappy unit for the most part. So unlikely that we see them.
These Lings and these run-bys from Reynor are starting to deal damage, and for kind of the first time in this game so far, it's Reynor with definitely an advantage, I'd say. I mean, it's not all Ogre by any means, but even this, catching 3 valuable Archons, if they can actually get them, though, that's a different story. But is there enough range to take this down? So, ShoWTimE getting in the face of Reynor here.
Yeah, quite the opposite, as ShoWTimE gets on the flank and now will pounce onto a Reynor that has nothing left to do but to try and commit for those Archons. He will manage to do that, and he will find the opportunity at the same time to kill an additional 16 probes and a cannon to soften that location for later as well. So great moves from either side. I mean, ShoWTimE capitalizing on the engagement, but Reynor never to go out quietly. He's gonna try to dive onto the third base, further putting pressure onto ShoWTimE to continue to do damage with this aggression. ShoWTimE trying to multitask as best as he can, but he has lost 25 workers. 77 to 63 is still salvageable if these units can get out. I imagine that, yeah, the Stalkers will blink onto the other side. The Zealots will be forfeit. These Stalkers do not have a way to escape. I would have loved to see a recall from that low ground, but maybe if he can shove enough Zerglings, a few of them can still escape.
Oh, Resources lost up is actually very close between the two, and ShoWTimE getting a little bit of eco damage back. He is taking a 6th base as well, but these Baneling run-bys, man, they have been really damn good this game so far. How many probes have fallen, actually? 56 so far.
And we still have ShoWTimE at 65, which really just goes to show how good he has been at producing and kind of replenishing those probes, as another 15 will go down for the count. In recent history here, Lynx will get us around onto the Archons, and they kill it surprisingly fast with +2 upgrades already, +3 on the way as well for the young Italian, who has managed to pull ShoWTimE out of position, forcing a recall. There's still a shield battery that hasn't really been targeted down from the Lynx, which means that the shield battery overcharge will come in very handy and actually manage to save that base with it. If that shield battery goes down, if Reynor prioritizes it, I think that Reynor had plenty there against what ShoWTimE was bringing to the table.
What a slugfest between these two to start things off. And those Banelings are all pretty close to finishing here. ShoWTimE has to be fast, and he's relatively quick. Those Banelings are not cheap whatsoever. But look how Reynor's just bouncing from one side of the map to the other. ShoWTimE's finding it hard to keep up.
Yeah, and that move was really cool for ShoWTimE as well, because he doesn't blink all the Stalkers at once. He lets some Stalkers absorb Banelings, and he waits until the very last second so that Reynor doesn't have the decision to make not to blow up the Banelings. So cool trade, but ShoWTimE, after all of these trades, is still, like you said, lagging behind. It is going to be 162 supply to 125, and these Banelings are going to continue to be relentless and continue to try to find damage onto these probe lines. They are going to find some damage indeed, and without a shield battery as well, the Archon is going to fall. ShoWTimE needs to remake some of those in the outer bases, but he has done such a great job at expanding that he is definitely not out of this game yet.
Oh, it's just so hard for ShoWTimE to get some space here. Like, Reynor, just small fractions of his army come in, and then boom, these Banelings doing hefty damage here. More probes falling. How many have gone down now? 84 for ShoWTimE, and he's still at 63. Holy crap, he's just been pumping out as many probes as possible, but I don't know how long he can keep this up, and I think Reynor can just keep going.
Yeah, it's getting a little bit nasty. Thank you for the income graph there, as Niall shows us just how bad it's been getting over time for ShoWTimE. And all of these bases have been weakened. None of these bases really have, too much to stand on. Like, there's no cannons, there's like barely any shield batteries, there's no buildings to block. We saw Hearthstone's approach, for example, to this was to have those sim cities against the run-bys, right, where he could just warp in one Stalker to negate a lot of the damage from those Banelings. ShoWTimE relying time and time again on his reaction time, and it has been good, but not good enough to mitigate for the speed of Reynor, one of the fastest players in the world, as this attack is gonna get crushed, and ShoWTimE will be forced to tap out. There is no one better, I think, Benny, in the world, perhaps, at just run-bys and circling some Banelings than Reynor, right? Like as far as just high-paced aggression, he is, I think, the very best. Yeah,
you have players that are I'm actually totally with you. There are players that absolutely have their strengths and weaknesses, and when I think of what is Reynor's super strength, it's his speed. And he obviously knows that about himself too, and he utilizes it to the max. He's like, all right, if I'm making it a game where you have to try and keep up with me by looking here, there, and everywhere, like that's a game that I feel very comfortable in. There's very few players that can actually keep up with him, and those that can, you know, I can pretty much count them on one hand, and they allow for some very crazy games. And ShoWTimE started off this game pretty damn well with what he did, but yeah, once Reynor got on the saddle, he just kind of rode away with it. And the next map as well, Curious Minds. This is one that I know Protoss players don't like that much going up against Zerg. So, ShoWTimE must be feeling the pressure a little bit, it has to be said.
Yeah, at the same time, at least the vertical third on Curious Mind is going to be a lot easier to defend because you naturally want to wall that off. And ShoWTimE really wasn't working with any wall-off. So again, if we go back to HearthStone versus Serral, I think that HearthStone's approach was really good on Berlingrad, where he had wall-offs everywhere. But he was also not expanding nearly at the same pace that ShoWTimE was expanding, right? So ShoWTimE perhaps, maybe if he took one base less and managed to hold his advantages and managed to close the doors and the gaps and put a little bit more of a sim city in his other bases, maybe that would have been a better approach than trying to react and keep pace with a Reynor who is not just fast, he is fast and great at being consistent with his speed, right? He pulls you on one side, you can expect that on the other side of the map he's also going to be, you can expect that he's going to be taking note of what damage he has done, of what your defenses remaining are, and look to continue to exploit things. He's a fast player, but in my opinion, also a very intelligent player. And in the bottom right-hand side, it is for Kaisi Gaming and representing Red Bull, Reynor. I meant Monster. He's representing Monster. Not really, though. But we are representing Monster.
We represent Monster Cats, you know, like Monster gives you wings and all that. But anyhow, spawning over in the top left, playing for Team Big, it is ShoWTimE.
It's ShoWTimE. He has a couch in his room.
Wow. He has a star on his wall as well. Let's
Yeah, but I mean, do you have a couch in your room, Ben?
I mean,
I've never seen.
It depends
I don't think
what
I've ever
room he's
seen
in.
I always assumed it was his room, as there is a star in his wall.
I mean, I have no idea. You know, like there's a couch in Rotti's room as well.
Oh, okay.
I mean, maybe it's the thing these days. Maybe you're missing out.
Maybe I'm missing out. Maybe I need to add a couch in my room. I thought it was cool, and I thought it wasn't there before. I'm pretty sure his bed was there before, and he had some bunny slippers or something like that on camera usually.
By before, you mean in game 1?
No.
Okay, I'm just making sure
seasons,
how
he's
crazy
rearranged
right
things
now.
around.
All right.
Oh,
so we've got it sorted out. Katz is with us, and he's not crazy. Oh, okay. Curious Minds, Katz. Like, I've had a lot of Protosses, and you know, I had a few Protosses in my team league that, you know, they shall not be named. But they all wanted to avoid this map so damn hard, and mainly because of this matchup too. So can you go through why Zerg, or at least why Protoss don't like playing against Zerg on this map?
I think that how open the triangle third is can be a little bit of a problem, because that's going to be either your third or your fourth base, and Protoss thrives off of like chokier areas where you can force field and where you can again make wall-ups with buildings and such. This base is super open, the one that Reynor just took, so that can be pretty difficult. If the rocks are broken as well, Roach Ravager, and even maybe Queen Walks can be pretty darn effective on this map. So it is not a particularly long map, and yeah, I think open triangle third is never good news for the Protoss.
Will be a Stargate again for ShoWTimE. He's been very good with how he utilizes his oracles, though. Like, we were both kind of in awe just about what he was doing with them in the game 1. He killed like a good 12 drones with keeping all 3 of them alive. Was using them for stasis traps and all that jazz. Just making the life of Reynor pretty tricky. But also they're so good at damage dealing against Lings and keeping those Stalkers a little bit more safe if you're all away from the creep and then the Queens can't engage as well. Just a good unit to have all around, and also all the scouting information you get from them.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that was not the issue at all for ShoWTimE. His early game looked immaculate, and he's going to open it the exact same way here. So heading towards probably the same realm here, as again, that wasn't the issue. The issue was the defense against the Baneling Rambites, which seems to be the flavor at the moment, the answer that the Zergs in Europe have found to this Protoss style, right? Like, they just want to get the Baneling Rambites going, and they have to work, is what Lambo was telling me, basically, is that they feel like the Baneling Rambites and just kind of snowballing is the way to go against this basic Protoss style.
And it really is like a basic Protoss style, right? Like, it's a super brawler. I'm going to just get a lot of gateway units out and see where it takes me. And it can be really scary because the speed at which ShoWTimE was expanding was nuts. Like, it's one thing that I always take from Maru as well, is that whenever he plays against a Zerg, very often I get into this situation where I'm like, all right, I'm on 3 or 4 bases. I'll pump out units and I'll kind of rally push, and he's always about like, all right, this is going to buy me time to then take another base and another base and another base, and there's just no slowing down from that point on. And it's a really cool style to see Protoss really give it to the Zerg in that swarmy kind of way, but also just utilizing the warpins can literally be almost anywhere.
Without a doubt, and the Baneling Rambites is kind of like the way that Zerg has to continue to be Zergy, right? Because Protoss doesn't really have like an equivalent to Banelings that you can just actively go to mineral lines and kill a lot of workers. Maybe something like Storm would be something like an equivalent, like Storms and Warp Prisms or something like that. Because even Disruptors can be answered to, and everything else is not AoE, right? Like Adepts will kill 1 drone at a time, the Oracles will kill 1 drone at a time. Banelings with +2, they just explode an entire mineral line in no time. And so it is the way that Zerg has to kind of stay ahead in economy, to continue to overexpand and to really continue to outswarm Protoss despite their swarmy approach. So let's see if Reynor takes that route again, as ShoWTimE is out here clearing some creep.
ShoWTimE utilizing the distance of the map here quite hard, and like, he's going to stop that creep spread before it even begins. And Reynor is just trying to hold on with few queens here, getting out the roaches, but that queen count's definitely getting thinned out a little bit here. He does have a counter attack on the other side, but ShoWTimE with lovely positioning and a cannon ready over there.
Yeah, 3 of those queens fall, but actually the prioritizing from ShoWTimE wasn't completely on point. He actually used his first shot onto a queen without noticing perhaps which ones had transfused, and then he kind of continued to commit onto that same queen until he killed it, until he exhausted the transfuse of the other 1 or 2 queens, as opposed to going after the queens with transfuse first. Of course, the queen with transfuse could be microed back as well, so maybe that's what he was accounting for, but yeah, I feel like he could have been a little bit better, but that was as good as he could have hoped for at the same time. 3 queens is a lot of damage.
Oh, I like how Reynor used, he saw the stasis getting made while he was in a stasis, and he was like, you know what? Let's just get rid of it, because that could bite me in the ass later on. So sacrificed a few lings just to do that. And because I think that was a good move, because right now he's fighting up this ramp where it feels very claustrophobic for Reynor. He doesn't have creep spread up this ramp, and he doesn't know exactly what lies at the top of it. He's trying to get some run-by damage done, but I gotta say, ShoWTimE's handling the map so damn well.
Yeah, he has to be a little bit careful now, though, as Reynor is posturing on the other side of him, and he could always look for a surround as well. This is a lot of units, so ShoWTimE's gonna have to respect this. The Zealots that we now see on the left of the screen were actually going towards the right-hand side, and they run into the creep and the links alike. So they both kind of gave each other a heads up as far as like what their intentions were for the counter damage. And now the Zealots have rerouted. However, going into this area, it's going to be actually pretty good of a fight to start for the Zealots, but they should recognize that they've been spotted. And with that, Roaches and Banelings both should be making their ways towards them. So yeah, ShoWTimE does well to retreat here now.
Yeah, it's definitely a different situation here, because Reynor, he doesn't have +1 melee on his lings. Doesn't even have it on the way, actually. So those Zealots that are soon going to be getting +2, I mean, it's the +1 that really matters at this point, but they actually trade very well against just the lings when it comes to that fight. So Reynor needs the support, he needs to be active with the rest of his army. Reynor really buckling down on just getting a lot of units together here and just pushing forward.
Yeah, for sure. And we see now that the Reynor is going to continue to push on forward. This is a ton of units now crashing into the Stalkers of ShoWTimE, and now going into the mineral line that's a little bit more exposed will actually finish the battery overcharge, so that Reynor is looking for an army win instead. is the reinforcements here for ShoWTimE. There is some coming from the left-hand side as he looks to collapse onto this army, and with the warpins, I think he will have just enough to push Reynor back here, but no, Reynor has more reinforcements himself with those links. Those Banelings looking to connect onto the Zealots. The Zealots are gonna run away from the Banelings, but they will be found in the back lines. Additional warpins of this time Stalkers are gonna happen as well, and as close as that fight was, it looks like ShoWTimE manages to barely hang on.
Holy crap. He holds, and he holds really well, actually. Like, he's got his 4th secured. He's making probes after it. You look at the drone count of both players, or work count even. It's not that great for Reynor. Yeah, he's been on 4 bases, but that was a super all-in from him. And his queen count is down to 3. And I mean, that's a hard number to reinforce and resupply with. He's getting Infestation Pit now. ShoWTimE's like, you know what? I'll get some more Oracles out as well. They've just been good for the stasis, good for the Revelation as well, and keeping creep back. And this game is looking so much better for the German.
Yeah, for sure. So, yeah, now we are going to have a little bit more of a stabilized game here. 68 workers on the side of ShoWTimE, 79 on the side of Reynor. This is still very much anyone's game. It's still kind of similar army compositions. I love that Reynor is adding Infestors right now. Those can be a little bit like hit and miss, as the fungal does have a little bit of a projectile, a little bit of a time that it has to travel to the units, and it can technically be dodged by the Blink Stalkers. But if the Stalkers cannot blink away, if blink is on cooldown or they are just caught unawares, it is one of the best possible tools to just kind of decimate or continue to or completely destroy an army.
They're both going so ham on the attack upgrades. Like, no armor on either side thus far, and they're really just looking to butcher each other's armies as fast as possible. Supplies, pretty damn close between them. ShoWTimE, though. That's a lot of Banelings and a lot of Zealots, and oh my god, juicy hits. Decent splits. Decent splits initially, for sure, from ShoWTimE, not to take too much damage, but that's a nice shutdown of that scary run-by.
Yeah, without a doubt. Now we have a Hive as well on the way for Reynor, so he is not slowing down in terms of just progression here. The fungal is going to whiff thanks to ShoWTimE's attentiveness. He's going to be able to blink dodge that one. A couple of additional fungals still remain on the side of Reynor here, as he is now dropping a Lurker then, and with that Hive almost completed, he will be able to transition further into it. ShoWTimE with a little bit of lag. Hopefully it's nothing too serious and something that we can recover from briefly.
Yeah, I hope
it's going to come back to us.
He was still moving on his camera there. You know, I too, like you, was distracted by his couch. Like, oh my god, somebody with a couch, you know? But no, you're still moving, so hopefully his internet's still fine and what have you. And even if this does come down to a situation where it's like, hey, we have to resume from replay, it will all be done pretty quickly. We've got a nice team over here on our hands, so yeah. But this game so far, definitely a good one, just to kind of recap while the game is paused and honors. ShoWTimE currently at 165 supply, Reynor 173, but he's about to hit Hive Tech, and he's got that Lurker transition on the way. And I gotta think, like, if you're a Protoss player and you're whipping out so many Zealots, so many Stalkers and all that kind of stuff, I feel that you're a little bit on a clock, because there's so much tech available for Zerg players these days, such as Lurkers and Ultras, that your Gateway army just starts to become pretty redundant against it. So is this strategy by ShoWTimE all about just killing them before the Zerg gets going?
I am not exactly sure that he absolutely has to, but I think that this army just, I mean, from the looks of the army, it does get hard countered by Lurkers, right? It's just at the moment Stalker Zealot. So, I mean, if Lurkers get out, it's gonna be very difficult for ShoWTimE. But there's always avenues from which you can just avoid the main fight and look for traits elsewhere. So that might have to be the approach that ShoWTimE takes. Like, if Lurkers get out, I don't think it's necessarily just, you know, he's dead in the water, but it's not going to be comfortable for him to take any head-on engagements anymore.
No, certainly not. And with the fact that fungal's on the field now as well, has to be very attentive, because one of those fungal lands and you lose a good bunch of Stalkers, that's even though you have a good economy, reinforcing every warpin matters, because you want to be using it to slow your opponent down. If you have to start using it to be defensive and what have you, that's when it starts to get very, very dicey. It definitely feels like a you can't make a mistake situation, because as soon as you do and the Zerg gets that little bit of breathing room, it turns into almost like a TVZ, where that bit of breathing room is all you need to launch across the map and really go absolute ape. But yeah, this map so far has been pretty damn good on both sides. I love the fact that Reynor went for something a little bit different there with the big attack. ShoWTimE held it, and yeah, we're going to see where this does end up. We are loading into the replay just a moment here. I think ShoWTimE is just had a little bit of a bugged game. Pretty unusual for StarCraft 2 to have these kind of bugs. You know, I come from, or I'm playing a different game at the moment with a lot more of them.
You were gonna say? I'm from Warcraft 3, I feel like.
That game, yeah, that game definitely had bugs too. Bloody Orc back in the days, man. Oof. But yeah, I've been playing a different game recently with quite a few bugs, cats. You know.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
Coming back to this one and a bug. Oh, maybe it's me bringing my bad luck along.
Maybe it is, Benny. I mean, yeah, we usually don't get a lot of those. I thought it might have to do with ShoWTimE's internet or something, as he has still not joined us back. But yeah, we're in the lobby. So as soon as everyone's ready, we're gonna go and resume from replay. Should be pretty good.
Yeah, he literally just said he needs to resize StarCraft, so he'll be joining us very momentarily, and we'll get back to this series. And it's been pretty feisty so far. I think they've both been dishing out some good games. There's been no sign of either one of them slowing down or getting tilted or anything like that. It's just been the two bashing heads, and in a beautiful way as well. All right, ShoWTimE's back. Cool.
All right, ShoWTimE says go, and so the game is about to restart. And yeah, the countdown is happening right now. There's going to be a little bit of loading, and then we are going to be set to go, Benny.
Who are you feeling so far for this map in particular?
Reynor looks a little bit better at the moment, I think, but I don't think ShoWTimE's out of it. Maybe 60-40, maybe 65-35.
I think if ShoWTimE can make something happen very soon, then good. But yeah, in my head, I'm so scared of lurkers. I don't know if it's my own PTSD in general. And I felt in the past that, it's nice for Protoss that you have all these beautiful air options that are a bit more sturdy. But it's also like if a Zerg plays well against them as well, and you didn't start the transition early to that, then getting there is ridiculously difficult. But yeah, we've got so much invested on the ground at this point, like all the forge techs, all the gateways that are on the map, and just trying to hold that many bases so quickly. I guess Curious Minds is a map that can be split in a way. Like, you know, you have the left side versus the right side. There's a limited number of bases. Does mean that this massive unit style of trading does eventually wear out a little bit faster than on other maps, but interesting.
It is interesting indeed. Game is now nearly recovered, Benny. And yeah, we have, as far as I remember, a lot of stalkers and zealots and nothing else on the side of ShoWTimE. So it's a little bit scary for sure. Reynor has already added some infestors. Those are dangerous already for ShoWTimE. He has to be careful where he steps. And Reynor is making the transition into lurkers, just to quickly recap, as he almost has his hive completed. And from then on forward, he is just gonna look to kind of solidify his position and maybe just force ShoWTimE to come at him. But Reynor can also be the type of player to kind of go on the other side, right, and try to continue to be aggressive no matter what. So yeah, maybe there's still an opening for ShoWTimE in that he doesn't have to transition to the late game or try to kill Reynor, as Reynor is likely to come at him as well and try to kill him, right? So it turns into a little bit weird of a game, but we'll see what ends up happening, really.
I liked the attempt there of using Tunneling Claw roaches, because I do feel that with ShoWTimE just using the oracles for detection and just having cannons, it was lucky for him that he kind of ran by a cannon there. Yeah, wouldn't be spotted. He is starting a robo up now, which will definitely help, especially against things like lurkers, getting the observers out. I know Revelation is great and stuff, but just making sure you have a few more ways to deal with it. Oh, this game's going to get hard, man. Like 8 lurkers are coming onto the field, and I don't like ShoWTimE's army against them.
Yeah, it really doesn't look too good. Let's see if ShoWTimE can find the space where the lurkers are not. So for the time being, at least, the lurkers don't have the active fast burrowing or the spines. And right now, they are on the other side of the map. So maybe ShoWTimE can actually pounce here and find something, as Reynor is going to look for counter offense and now moving his infestors. So now ShoWTimE's going to spot the lurkers on the other side, but they are too late to reposition here, which means ShoWTimE will have an opening to kill this base, but Reynor will answer on the other side, and there's nothing that ShoWTimE can do to save his. Maybe if ShoWTimE can save more of his probes, this will end up being a little bit of a good trade for him. But it's not looking too hopeful, as those lurkers can continue to potentially push on forward.
Supplies are so close, and ShoWTimE didn't lose as many workers here in this initial trade.
Yeah.
And he's also got another base. Like, they're both on 4 bases here. Let's have a look at the working out. 79 pros versus 52 drones. Though the one scary thing is the fact that Reynor's army is bigger as a result.
Yeah, there's not a ton of buffer for those lurkers, so Reynor's also forced to go back. If the entire army of Reynor was here, I think he could have continued to push onto the triangle third. And now, if Reynor can continue to get lurkers out and have them both kind of like offensively and defensively, if he can afford to leave a few lurkers back, then things will look great for him. But now he has ShoWTimE pinned back to where he has to potentially take an engagement against these lurkers, and that would be incredibly difficult. Even harder up the ramp that Reynor is repositioning himself.
I love the fact that Reynor's being a tiny bit patient with this, though. Like, look at that. Seismic spines, seconds away from being done. +3 as well, seconds away from being done. I won't be surprised if he, like, just goes once that is done. But ShoWTimE, he's getting ready to have the flank of a lifetime by the looks of it. Look how he's posturing. It's like he's got 3 separate control groups for 3 separate armies here.
Yeah, I mean, he's looking to collapse if Reynor pushes on forward, but Reynor's going to be smart enough to retreat there. ShoWTimE also not setting up a flank past creep. Basically, he doesn't want to get spotted, obviously. So yeah, now ShoWTimE does really good, I think, to split his army in 2. And if he can find a way to kind of slow down Reynor's army, or at least see where it is, and he now knows where the lurkers are, maybe he can take a fight against the rest of the army now. So he needs to consolidate his own army. The lurkers are obviously not going to be able to fire while they are uprooted. So this is good on ShoWTimE if he can collapse with the entire army at once, but Reynor already repositioned a lot of his lurkers.
Oh, and he's got those infestors behind enemy lines as well with this, so they could come into play in a crazy sort of way. And ShoWTimE's getting a transition ready. Oh, those infestors from downtown. That was beautiful.
Yeah, but also great reaction from ShoWTimE. I mean, that recall was instantaneous, and that's going to save a good chunk of his army, including the more expensive Archons here. But that's going to offer an opportunity for Reynor to take this watchtower and maybe try to get a good situation going. At the same time, ShoWTimE's going to come from every angle right now. A little bit of a 180 surround and a lot of exposed lurkers here at the front. So 3 of them more or less are going to go for free. And luckily for ShoWTimE, there's a lot more where those came from. So now he has to retreat, as there's still a little bit of buffer. You only want to engage onto those lurkers if they are naked by themselves, basically at the front, and otherwise just back away from them. So right now we see a couple of exposed lurkers. ShoWTimE trying to do what he can, and now making 3 immortals at a time, Benny. That could be the answer that he's looking for if he can get those up to a good number.
Certainly would. He's dealing with the roaches right now, but
no recall.
Reynor's army is just so strong in that north side of the map. And look, so many lings. ShoWTimE's doing a good job of escaping with the pros, and maybe he can get away with them as well. Recall is not available because he used it on his army earlier, but ShoWTimE, he's just going to look to strike back.
Yeah, unfortunately for ShoWTimE, he runs into a ling at the top right-hand side, so those probes are not going to end up surviving. Also, there was no recall available, remember, because he recalled his earlier army, which means all of those probes were basically doomed. So it was good on him to try and save this at all, but not going to be able to. If he could have just recalled those probes to the most far away vertical base at the left-hand side corner, that would have been incredible for him, right? That all of a sudden he has 29 extra workers, and all of a sudden we are working at a very small deficit for ShoWTimE. But as it stands, it is 55 to 65. Actually, we would have been working at a big probe advantage for ShoWTimE if that had been the case. But right now, he is going to be lagging just by 10, however, so this is still very recoverable. And with the addition of the Immortals, maybe there is yet hope against these lurkers, but the Enforcers are going to have something to say in the way of Neuroparasite. The Lynx are just trying to hold the units in place for the lurkers to do their job, and this is a billion lurkers, Benny.
I mean, he's actually got as many lurkers as ShoWTimE has pretty much every unit on the field. This is crazy. Like, I don't know how ShoWTimE's going to stop this with almost any army that isn't one that can avoid the damage entirely. Reynor's even shutting down the exterior bases as well. He's getting 3 more Archons, a few more Immortals and what have you, but his bank's completely gone here, Cats.
Yeah, and ShoWTimE, I think, has the right idea. So he's going to look for a 360s round if he can find it, or completely avoid the army engagement. It looks like it's going to be the latter, and he's going to hit 2 bases at once. So maybe trying to outpace Reynor as fast as he can kill him. But Reynor has already managed to reposition like a few of those lurkers, 4 on site here at the triangle. Gonna make it impossible for ShoWTimE to break there. ShoWTimE does have a couple of observers here, though. Oh, but not on that side. Actually, all the units running into lurkers on the right-hand flank. Over here, they're going to be clear. The lurkers, just 4 of them on site, as another 2 morphing are going to get killed as well. But now the remaining lurkers are going to hold just fine, and Reynor's looking for a little bit of a sandwich as well.
Yeah, a poor observer there. So much going on. The host units on the right side just moved down into a ramp and got absolutely obliterated, and that's the end of that counterattack by ShoWTimE. And look at his supply, man. It's just completely gone. The amount of firepower in this Zerg army and the speed as well. Oh, nothing that the Protoss can do at this point.
Nothing that the Protoss can do at this point, Benny. It's just finished. And yeah, it's so difficult to even think of what he could have done differently, because you are kind of trapped into your army composition. You have so much investment into the gateways, basically, right? Like, you've added so many gateways that to transition into anything else is very difficult. ShoWTimE attempted at doing that by just making those robos and trying to crank out Immortals. If you try to crank out Disruptors, which are maybe seen as the better counter to lurkers, then your opponent is already on hive tech, and you know that, so Vipers are inevitable, right? It's just so difficult from this position. Once Reynor started getting enough lurkers to both attack and defend, it feels like ShoWTimE ran out of options. This is going to be the final attack of the game as ShoWTimE tries to set up for a surround for a final cleanup, but it's not going to be possible, and he will have to tap out.
It's really well done by Reynor, because that was kind of off the back of a weird game as well, right? In that he went for that all-in-y attack there off a pretty low drone count. ShoWTimE deflected, and it was like, oh, ShoWTimE's absolutely in this. And Reynor's just so damn good, dude. Like, these transitions that he does feel seamless. Like, even though ShoWTimE was kind of on the right track in that I'm going to keep on making units, I'm going to eventually wear you out kind of thing, he managed to hold on while transitioning to lurkers after kind of hindering himself from that attack earlier, which is so damn difficult to do. Like, if I do an all-in to my opponent and then I'm trying to hold in against them, basically doing a counter, and also I'm transitioning out of it, it's just, yeah, he does it so damn well. It looks so effortless.
Yeah, and that was a rough one for ShoWTimE, because it didn't look like he took like massive damage either, like he did in the first game from the Veiling Rambites, right? It was a little bit more of a straight up game where Reynor just outright out macroed him and got to a unit composition that ShoWTimE could not handle. And ShoWTimE seemed to have so little opportunity to make something happen. Out of all the maps so far, I feel like Berlingrad might be the more hopeful one. Just against those Baneling Rambites, it is a little bit more enclosed, both on both the third and fourth bases, right? Whichever one ShoWTimE decides to take. We saw Hearthstone put up a great fight against several on this map. So let's see if ShoWTimE can start a comeback here, as it is not looking too good for this man on the top left-hand side playing for Berlin International Gaming. It's ShoWTimE.
A large mountain to climb that young man has, and spawning over on the southeast side, currently 2-0 up, is Kaisi Gaming's Reynor. Brilliant new addition to that team, by the way, has to be said. Absolutely one of the best players on the planet, and whatever kind of doubters or doubts people had about him in the group stage, well, this kind of play, if he can keep this up, he's looking at another top 3 in this region, Cats. He's so damn strong.
He is absolutely ridiculous. And now we see ShoWTimE with a gateway scout again, which means Reynor again is going to be able to take his natural expansion uncontested. And yeah, I don't really know why ShoWTimE prefers to do this. He just has to think that it works better for his timings to follow. But yeah, I mean, yeah. Again, personally, as a Zerg, I hate it when the Protoss blocks my expansion. And that is kind of the expectation that most Protoss pros have developed over the years.
Yeah, I do know that Reynor, like when I spoke to him in the past, so it's 16 hatch, right? That normally goes down as hatch first. I know he's done it in the past where he's not gone for that 16th drone and just gone for the 15th and then avoided the hatch block entirely from like different kinds of shenanigans. So I don't know if it's one of those situations where ShoWTimE just knows that sometimes Reynor gimps himself a little bit, and still gets the hatchery. Now I could just be guessing, but that's something that could be coming into play with these scout timings from ShoWTimE here.
That could very well be the case. I mean, 15 hatch on a map as short as Berlingrad in particular can be also blocked though, and I don't think it's particularly difficult for the Protoss to do that. But yeah, I agree. I love 15 hatching myself. It's just because every Protoss has like the timing down for 16 hatch instead, but the 15 hatch is also blockable if ShoWTimE really wanted to make sure that it didn't go down.
ShoWTimE again going for the Stargate, and I like that from him, given that I think the Stargate play from him so far has been pretty damn clean. Like his Oracle control's been good. He's been keeping them alive. He's been dealing continuous damage, and they're good for a follow-up too with the Stalkers. But I have to, like, I'm kind of brainstorming myself, like, what does he have to do different this game to take down Reynor? Because so far Reynor's not really showing any vulnerabilities in his play. He's just looking very all-round damn good.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure, Benny. I mean, he's gonna open with the same opener for the time being, right? Just Adept into Oracle, probably a very, very fast third. And that seems to be what ShoWTimE has rehearsed. And I mean, as far as like going into the mid game, he hasn't looked weak. And last time around, he even found 3 queens worth of damage with his initial poke on the Stalkers, but it just was simply not enough. So I too am wondering if we're gonna see something a little bit different from the German powerhouse here, as he's just going to move out and scout with those first 2 Adepts, and there's not much else for them to do. So expect a fast third, expect 3 Oracles, and yeah, it seems like we're just doing business as usual.
Like, either player that loses this series, they are not out of the tournament. That's one thing you have to be hopeful about. Either one of these will see them again in the DreamHack, which is awesome. But if ShoWTimE does start off this run with a 3-0 defeat to Reynor and trying to do the same thing each time, that does make me worry a little bit for him, because this is a match that absolutely means a lot winning it, moving further in the tournament. Staying in the winner bracket means you play less matches overall in general, because like winning 1 winner match is kind of like avoiding 2 jumps in the lower bracket, basically. But yeah, if this is kind of what he's come up with as his best shot of beating Reynor, and he's tried it 3 times in a row and it doesn't do the job, oh, that's going to feel so gutting, so confidence smashing, if you will.
Yeah, absolutely. This is not looking great for him at the moment. There is a Forge now on the way, as well as Twilight Council that most likely is going to be for that Blink, as we are headed once again into this style, a style that Hero popularized.
Far earlier Robo this game, though. That will give him the opportunity to get out an Observer, maybe stock up his army a little bit better, like faster Immortals, and I guess most importantly, potentially a Warp Prism with any kind of push that he does.
Ooh. Oh, Oracle falls. Oh, only 2 drones worth of damage. The Oracle falls. That's going to weaken ShoWTimE, especially for those later pokes where those Oracles are going to be looking to cover for the Zerglings, getting surrounded by Lynx and the likes. So not ideal for sure. This time around, we have a much quicker Templar Archives, as well as double gases being taken, Templar Archives, as well as double gases being taken on the natural base. So we are going to have a little bit of a different approach from ShoWTimE. Charge on the way, no Blink, and already much heavier on the gas than you would expect at this stage if ShoWTimE wanted to be flooding with gateway units once again. So we are going to have a change up at least, Benny.
Yeah, and I like it so far, because whatever he's been seeing in the series, he kind of said to himself, all right, these games haven't been too bad for me at the start, but I still lose. So he's kind of like said to himself, all right, let's see how this other attack goes. And Reynor did start off with +1 melee. This Roach Warren's pretty damn late as well, compared to a normal ZVT, so it will be a heavy emphasis on the Lings. So getting out a lot of charge lot very quickly, along with Archons, should be good against that in theory, right? And we have Reynor with a totally different approach, actually, this game.
Yeah, it should definitely be great against Zerglings alone, but there is a Roach Warren available, and the units are going to be revealed here in the middle. As soon as Reynor sees that Archon, he should start making Roaches now. And Roaches do start indeed. So, yeah, ShoWTimE is on a little bit of a timer now because 7 Roaches are on the way for Reynor. He has kind of sounded the alarm on the Zerg side of things, and Reynor is looking to be ready against this. There is no Roach speed, however, and there is that Spire on the way, which is going to complicate things for ShoWTimE terribly once those Muta are out potentially, as Archons are not going to help. There is no Blink this time around. There is no Phoenix whatsoever, so ShoWTimE putting a lot of stock onto this attack, and it doesn't look all that scary for the time being.
No, the one saving grace for him is that he is supply blocking Reynor. Reynor can't actually build any units right now, but ShoWTimE's actually taken the time to fall back a little bit, get a 4th baser going, and start that Immortal production, which is good against the Roaches. But I am very worried, like you said, about that Spire that's finishing out, because, yeah, Muta's out on the field. Well, they'll shut down the Warp Prism for sure, and then, yeah, maybe catch ShoWTimE entirely with his.
Did ShoWTimE see it? I don't know. If ShoWTimE saw the Spire, that would be a huge blessing. A huge blessing. Okay, he does actually spot the Spire with that Zealot that unloaded from the Warp Prism, so a little bit of a lucky spot. But he hasn't yet reacted, so maybe he hasn't noticed completely. And at the moment, he doesn't really have any sort of an answer for the Muta that are on the way for Reynor. He's morphing Archons, and sure, on paper, like if the Muta were to fight the Archons, the Archons trade really well, but the Archons cannot chase the Muta around. They're too clunky, they're too fat, and they're too slow. And the Muta can just go everywhere. They can jump from base to base. And if there's no cannons, if there's no defenses set up, we might just see ShoWTimE start to crumble here. It's going to be extremely difficult. Maybe Panic Phoenix. He saw the Spire, but he didn't see the Spire, Benny.
Oh, that is such a... And look at the head tilt. You see it. He saw it, but he didn't see it. And oh, my goodness. That is 2 Germans falling down to the lower bracket in